Afternoon YouTube, it's Sam from Sam's Garden Maintenance. And in this video today guys, well, I want to have a chat with you about job and knockers. So I'm on my way to another job. I think it's perfect time. And it's also perfect time because, oh God, if you look at any, gardening group on Facebook, there's just countless sort of posts where people, other gardeners are sharing them from like other Facebook groups or community groups, and I'll be honest with you, they're absolutely laughable. I saw one earlier, a job and knocker, really, because there is a distinction. I'll get onto that in a bit. One of these like weekend warrior types, job and knockers. He was offering council cuts from £10, where basically he was selling this as a service, believe it or not, where he would come in, trim it down, and then it's up to you to tidy up. He doesn't tidy up, it's a council cut. He does it so you can get it back on top, and this is for £10 per hour, something like that. It's like, and that's what I saw today. I'll be honest with you, I see him all the time, and like I said, they do make me chuckle, I must admit. I'm not trying to bash anybody, I'm not trying to take the piss out of anybody. I'll discuss it fully and you'll see my opinion on them, but they do elicit a very, very strong response on social media, I must admit. It's some people, like my personal opinion, and I'll jump forward in the video, but I just see them as amusement. They don't bother me. They're just like little flies buzzing around. They don't bother me at all, really. If that's how they want to do it, then just let them. But then other people, they just get the hump by them. They get really ragged off by them. And the thing is, they get ragged off by them because they think it's taking work from them and taking, and to be fair, they can be detrimental. I'll explain that. But as for the work thing, I've lost work to them. I think we've all done, where we go and then we quote, and then the customer looks shocked, like really shocked, and they're like, oh, well, my previous gardener, he only charged £8 an hour, £10 an hour, or he did it for a tenner. And like I've had no end of people this year actually, and I'll do a little tally up at the end of the year of just how many sort of waste, phone calls I've had off people. But yeah, and I think to myself, and you should think to yourself about it, do you want to work for that sort of person? Because I think when someone's used to paying £8 an hour, no matter what we do, we're not going to sort of surpass them. We are in a way in terms of quality of workmanship, but it's clear that people who pay that, or seek that out, they're just bothered about the money side. It could be that they're hard up, or it could just be that they're tight, but they sort of seek, people like that out and get people like that to work for them because, well, that's what they want. They just want, cheap labour, basically. They want, and I think to myself, do I want to be, and it always makes me laugh because whenever you speak to them, customers like that, they still aren't happy. Like the amount of people who they say, oh yeah, the gardener was charging £8 an hour, but he wouldn't turn up, and he was quick when he was here, and he'd let me down, and he didn't do it. But you still had him, you were still entertaining him, and you're thinking, well, yeah, you're paying peanuts. And I do think that's true. I think especially in this sort of industry, I think if you pay peanuts you get monkeys. That's my personal opinion, and this is what sort of gets my back up a little bit when when you put prices up, or the customers sort of moan at your prices. It's because I think anybody who charges a decent rate, or they put the price up, or you know, they're running a business, it's not so much so, you know, they can, you know, retire early with an extra £1 million in the bank. It's because what they are, you know, getting in return, they're then reinvesting into the business. And I've had this discussion before with people, where the money that we're getting, we're then reinvesting back into our business, which is allowing us to get better kit, bigger kit, so we can do a job better, quickly and more efficiently. And you know, some people just don't want that, I don't think. So like I said, it always, you know, makes me chuckle when people have this sort of basically like negative stance. So I think, you know, I've spent 5 minutes talking and ranting on, but you know, just in case you aren't, you know, familiar what I'm on about, what are job and knockers, what are weekend warriors? Well, it says I've described, it's people that are, you know, the cliche is that they're either retirees, or they are, you know, people who are on the UC, Universal Credit, or the dole, basically, aka they've already got a fixed income, so whatever they do on the side is basically free money, beer money, you know, it tops it up. Myself, I can't understand how people can sort, even if they are getting, you know, an income. The only way I think they could be making money is if they've got access to free tools, or very, very cheap tools. They've got a wage that's coming in that covers them and allows them to, you know, have extra left over. And then basically what they, you know, go and earn, in air quotes, is basically all theirs, because they don't pay tax on it. They don't need to worry about equipment, and if they do, they can just buy, you know, super cheap. But then even like a cheap petrol mower from B&Q, you know, that's probably luxury for them in a way, because I can imagine they'd be looking out for, like, on Facebook Marketplace or something. But you know, cheap second-hand mowers, they could be like 100 odd quid or something. So, you know, they've got to be sort of like, that's 10 hours of gardening to them. That's a lot of lawns for them. So like I said, it does make me chuckle. I think to myself sometimes, I think if people are like legitimately starting a business and they think this is the best way to go, you know, so you might be watching this video and thinking, oh, this bloke's a right rude bastard. I'm offering grass cutting from, you know, £10 an hour, and I'm super busy, so you know, it's working. Well, you will be. Somebody said to me once, a free prostitute and a cheap tradesman will never be out without work. And I think it's true. I think somebody offering grass, you know, at £10 an hour, or gardening, you probably will be thrown off your feet. And why am I doing this video now? Well, there's millions of posts on Facebook, and also I see him about. You see him on Facebook groups. So when you see on these community groups, anybody know a gardener, you see all these names, and it's quite often personal names, and it's, you look at the profile and, you know, they don't look gardeners, you know. It's just somebody who does a little bit of work on the side, and then you see him around about town, you know, gardening, you know, out the back of the car. I'm not saying, you know, everybody could start how they want to, but I think if this is how you want to start your business, by, you know, offering, I'm not even bothered about people undercutting, you know, it's, everybody's price is different, but I think £10, I don't know how they can sort of, you know, you can earn off it, if I'm being honest with you, or live off it, because one, I think it's below the minimum wage anyway, so I don't know. But like I said, the only other thing I find is a problem with them is basically it's the price scalping. I think you know, you'll have the odd customer who will get charged, you know, they'll have a job and knocker, and then they'll think every gardener charges £10 an hour, and then when a real gardener comes along, they're just shocked. And it is shock, I'll be honest with you, because I've had it. I'll never forget last year, and I've told many people this story. I went and I went and bought some timber, some nice wood, and they sell basically nice wood, like exotic hardwoods and stuff like that. Really, really good stuff. And somebody who works there said, "Oh, are you a gardener?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, somebody I know. They've got a big house. Would you be looking at it or something, because I think they need a garden?" I says, "Yeah." So I gave him a card, and about a month later I had a phone call. So I told her up. Beautiful big house on the outskirts of a really nice village. Really, really nice house. Proper, somewhere you look at it, you think, I'd live here if I won a lottery. Outbuildings, nice, good amount of land, really nice. And the lady come out, she was showing me around. She says, "This is what needs doing." She says, "I just need the borders doing." I'm thinking, okay, well, this was last year. So she says, "Well, how much do you charge an hour?" I says, "Well, I don't charge hourly." I says, "But I can give you a price for the borders." "Oh, okay then." I says, "Is there a problem?" She says, "Well, I hire 2 gardeners. I have 2 gardeners working for me already." Like, okay. She says, "Yeah, I pay one of them £10 an hour, and he does the grass cutting, and I pay the other one £8 an hour, and he does the borders, but he's retiring." I'm thinking, okay. I says, "Well," I said, "I'm going to be honest with you." I says, £8 an hour. I says, "I'm going to be a hell of a lot more than that." Okay then. Well, it's up to you. Do you want to give a price? I says, "Well," I said, "I'll give you a quote." And I says, "But I think we've already sort of, discussed, we've come up with our own conclusion. Yeah, well, I'll be best off looking for another, somebody who's retired who, they just want a little bit of pocket money." I'm thinking, well, that's nice for them. So yeah, and that's how it went. And I'll be honest with you, there's the old adage, this is how rich people stay rich. But it was how she said it, like, I have 2 people, and she was like making out like they were on the books and stuff. And I'm thinking, sorry, you've got 2 slaves. But that's me just talking a bit sort of, out of place there. It's up to people how they want to sort of do things. But yeah, the bloke, he must have got his socks and left. But so yeah, that's my opinion on job and knockers. I'll be honest with you, they don't tend to bother me. If it is that I lose work to them, well, I'll be honest with you, they've helped me out. They've screened some of the bad customers out, So that's how I see it. I know it sounds a bit thingy, but do you want to work for somebody who only values you on being cheap? Me personally, if a customer ever said to me, "Sam, we love you because you're cheap," I'll be honest with you, I'd be pretty annoyed actually, because I think there's better words than cheap. Good value, maybe. Maybe a stretch if you said I'm affordable, but cheap is not necessarily everything. I often find, and I always say this to people, especially if they've been unsure, because sometimes, especially if they've never had a gardener before, they might be a bit hesitant, because they've suddenly got somebody turning up at the property, looking after their garden that they've looked after for all of their adult life, or all of their life that they've been in that house. So they could have looked after the garden for 30-40 years. Suddenly there's a bloke that they don't know who's turning up doing the gardening how they don't know. They just got a sort of trust. And I can tell sometimes with people, especially when it's we've never had one before, they don't know what they're paying for. They don't necessarily, they just know they're paying for something, don't know how it's going to be done or what necessarily they're getting for it. And I just say to them, look, watch how I work. Come and ask me questions while I'm doing it. Have a look, around while I'm doing it, and you'll see where your money's going. You'll see what value you're getting. And they do. You see them hovering around, and they'll come and they'll have a look, and you see them looking at your van, and oh, is this battery? Oh, that's good. Oh, is this pet? Oh, it doesn't need a plug. And I think one of the first questions they ask is, do you need any power? and I think that's a question, you know, a sign that they either expect you to turn up with plugging, or they've had somebody who's, you know, turned up with plug. I says, no, I says, I bring everything I need, I've got all my own fuel. I says, just leave me to it. And they'll hover around and they'll look, and then you'll see him come out after, and then you'll see him talking to the missus and nodding their head, and then they'll give me the money and they'll say, yeah, brilliant, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I think, you know, that's it. I think professionalism, it doesn't necessarily matter, you know. I think having a presentable image, a presentable van, you know, good quality tools, but I think all of it sort of, you know, adds up to sort of, you know, one package. And I think it is being professional. I think this is how we beat the job and knockers. This is how we sort of, you know, separate it. I'll tell you one more sort of story before I go. Now, I look after a lady, look after her garden, sorry, not a lady, and her garden it's like a little council bungalow. So it's like sheltered, it's not sheltered accommodation, but like where we live, it's like bungalows that are set aside, and it's only basically for OEPs to live there. And the councils normally do the gardening for more contractor, but she doesn't have them because she likes the garden looking nice, so she has me doing it. And the next door neighbour, I used to think the council did it, and then she got talking because we'd see her over the fence. I'm not using this to compare, but the lawn that I looked after, I used to feed it, you know, I'd give it a little bit of a tickle over with a scarifier, you know, because it didn't need much. Mow it, you know, once a week during the summer, stuff like that, fortnightly, you know, every so often. If it needed more of a cut, it got it, you know. The lady was very hot on with it, and it looked nice, it looked absolutely impeccable. But the next door neighbour's lawn, I'll be honest with you, it looked a bit shit. And I used to think the council did it, and then she'd come out, she was mowing, and said, oh, he's done a terrible job today, and all that. I thought it was her husband, so I never said out. And but I did notice there was always something wrong with the lawn. So the best one I saw was a strip straight up the middle where he must have had it on too low, and he'd like left a right strip, and then he'd raised it up a notch, so everywhere else was cut but this strip stood up. So there was that. What else was there? There was always like donuts on the edge of the lawn where he'd drop it off, he'd drop like 2 wheels off, so the deck would slam down on top of the edge of the lawn, so it would leave donuts, as I call it. They've been missed, you know. I'm not saying I went out my way to pick up on it, but it's stuff that we notice, and I am an observant guy. So there was that was going on. I remember she said to me, she says, oh, she had one real good moan about this bloke, and she says, oh, he's terrible, he's not turned up today. I says, well, look, I says, if it helps you out, because I used to think it was your husband. I says, look, if it helps your husband out, I says, do you want me just to, you know, I can give you a price for it, I can keep on top of it for you. Oh, no, I've got a gardener, ducky. I says, oh, okay. He says, yeah, he says, Luke says, Mrs. such and such, won't give a name, she's told me how much you charge her, but you see, this bloke, I just give him a tenner and he just keeps on top of it for me, and that's what I want. But yet she's still moaning all the time and it looks shit. So some people just want that's what they want. I wouldn't necessarily say this lady, you know, because, you know, how small the lawn is, I probably would have done it for 20 quid. So, you know, she could spend twice as much and get 10 times as much value. But people, you know, sometimes they just they just want it doing, you know, and, you know, that's a market that we can never compete with. But it's what it is though, isn't it? But I have waffled on too long. But have a good day, guys, and as usual, keep on gardening, have a good day, and all that other stuff.